Maisie's secret friend. Maisie. Time for dinner. My daughter Maisie came bounding down the stairs, her strawberry blonde curls bouncing. At 6 years old, she had a wild imagination and an energetic curiosity about the world. Lately, she'd been telling us all about her new secret friend, who would visit her at home and play elaborate games of make-believe. Kids and their imaginary pals, I thought with an amused shake of my head. Over dinner, Maisie chattered about her afternoon. Me and Iris played school in my room. She was the teacher and I was the student. She even gave me homework to practice my letters. I smiled and glanced at my husband Jacob. We were used to indulging Maisie's fantasies about her invisible friend Iris. Though I did wish she had more real playmates than just constructs of her imagination. That's nice, sweetie. Did you finish your homework that Iris gave you? Maisie nodded, mouth full of mashed potatoes. Aha. Iris said I'm her bestest student. Jacob gave me a bemused look. We were happy our only daughter seemed content, if a bit lonely at times. Maisie was imaginative and shy, she often preferred her own company, so Iris was like an ever-present companion. No need to worry, we thought. That night, after tucking Maisie into bed with her favorite stuffed unicorn, I paused in the hall. Faint giggling drifted from her room. Assuming she was just playing with her toys before bed, I continued downstairs to help Jacob clean up the kitchen. The next evening, I entered Maisie's room to check on her before bedtime. I stopped short. Scribbled all over the walls in crayon were the letters of the alphabet, some backwards or disjointed. My jaw fell open. Maisie. What did you do? She looked up at me, eyes wide and innocent. It's my homework. Iris said I should practice. I frowned, surveying the colorful scrawls marking up the lavender walls. Sweetie, you know you're not supposed to draw on the walls. But Iris said. I don't care what Iris said. You're not allowed to vandalize your room. I let out an exasperated sigh. Come on, let's get you cleaned up. Maisie pouted as I ushered her to the bathroom to wash her hands and face smudged with crayon. This imaginary friend nonsense was getting out of hand. Over the next week, more odd incidents occurred. An intricate block tower Maisie had built somehow toppled over while she was at preschool. Her favorite doll was found with scribbles all over its face. And each time, Maisie insisted Iris was responsible. One night, Maisie appeared in our bedroom crying. Iris says she doesn't want me to have any other friends. She wants to be my only friend. I smoothed back her hair. It's okay, sweetie. Iris isn't real, remember? Maisie shook her head, distraught. She is real. She plays with me and talks to me. She said I can't have other friends. But I told her I want to be friends with other kids. I had Jacob move Maisie into our bed to soothe her while I pondered this behavior. She seemed genuinely frightened. Despite our efforts to explain, she refused to admit Iris wasn't real. I resolved to call her pediatrician in the morning. Maybe a professional could help. That night, I awoke to the sound of Maisie whimpering near the foot of the bed. I switched on the bedside lamp to see her crouched against the far wall, arms wrapped around her knees. Maisie? What's wrong? She lifted her head, tears streaking her face. I told Iris to leave but she won't. She's standing right there. Maisie pointed to the empty space by the footboard. I felt a chill spread through me. Maisie wasn't just staring into space, her gaze was fixed and fearful, following something neither I nor Jacob could see. She cringed and hid her face. Make her leave me alone. My heart broke, seeing her so distraught. I gathered her into my arms. Shoo. You're safe, it's okay. Over her head, I exchanged an uneasy look with Jacob. Something was clearly wrong. At the doctor's office next morning, we described Maisie's behaviors. He asked to speak with her alone first. When they emerged 15 minutes later, the doctor's face was grim. Has Maisie experienced any trauma lately? Bullying, abuse? I blinked. No, nothing like that. She's happy at school. What is it? He let out a grave sigh. In most cases, imaginary friends are harmless fantasy. But Maisie genuinely seems to believe this Iris is real. I'm worried she may be manifesting a dissociative identity as a maladaptive coping mechanism. I gasped, gripping Jacob's arm. Dissociative identity. Like multiple personalities. The doctor held up a hand. Let's not leap to conclusions. I'd like to refer you to a psychiatrist who specializes in childhood disorders for a full assessment. Maisie needs help. We took Maisie straight there. After several lengthy evaluations, the psychiatrist confirmed the worst. Maisie appeared to have dissociative identity disorder. In simple terms, her mind had fractured into distinct personas as a way of detaching from trauma she could not handle. Iris was her alternate identity. This fragile other self had likely become overwhelmed trying to manage Maisie's mind alone. She was now resisting integration and fighting to remain in control. We needed to act quickly before Iris became more aggressive or caused real psychological damage. As we listened, horrified, I felt sick with guilt. My little girl had suffered some unknown trauma that made her psyche splinter apart. We were advised to remove any triggers at home that might encourage her dissociation. She would start intensive therapy and medication to help her reconcile her fractured self. We steeled ourselves for a difficult road ahead. At home, I packed away all of Maisie's dolls, uncertain which might be associated with Iris in her mind. The drawings on her wall came down next. That night, Maisie grew agitated as we prepared her for bed. No. Iris doesn't like that. She wants me to leave the drawings up. There is no Iris, sweetie, I said firmly but gently. You're safe now. She screamed and thrashed as I held her, begging Iris to go away and leave her be. My heart shattered, but I didn't let go until she finally collapsed in exhausted sleep. In the weeks that followed, we saw glimpses of our smiling girl return as her therapy progressed. She seemed calmer and more present. I allowed myself to hope the worst was behind us. Then late one evening, I was awoken by the crack of glass breaking. I leapt out of bed and raced toward Maisie's room. Rounding the corner, I froze. A dark-haired girl dressed in Maisie's clothes stood in the middle of the hall, holding a shard of broken mirror. She looked up and I stifled a scream. It was Maisie's face, but the eyes staring back at me were cold and vacant. Without a word, she darted past me toward the stairs. I ran after her, but she was impossibly fast, giggling madly. The front door hung open and police lights flashed beyond it. Jacob stood in the driveway talking to officers. I rushed outside. Did you see Maisie? She ran right by you. Jacob looked confused. Maisie? No, I heard glass break and came down. My heart seized. She was still here, somewhere. I shouted her name as we scoured the neighborhood. Finally, we found her curled beneath some bushes several blocks away, shivering and disoriented. Dark hair dye stained the shoulders of her pajamas. Back home, she trembled against me on the sofa while police inspected her room. The broken mirror, scissors, and hair dye confirmed our worst fear. Iris had emerged and tried to alter Maisie's appearance to match the persona she had created. Though it pained us to disrupt her life further, we admitted Maisie to a psychiatric facility. She needed round-the-clock care to integrate her fractured self before Iris did permanent damage. I cried as I packed her bag, tucking in her favorite stuffed unicorn. At the facility, her medications were adjusted and intensive therapy began. She had art sessions to visualize making Iris leave, role play to practice setting boundaries with her alter ego. We visited daily, celebrating each small sign of our real girl re-emerging. Finally, after months of treatment, our daughter came home again. Maisie was still shy and hesitant, but the cold vacancy in her eyes was gone. No more outbursts or vivid imaginings about Iris. She seemed whole. I knew the road ahead would have challenges. Maisie would need continued therapy and support. But as I tucked her in that first night home, her arms wrapped tightly around her old unicorn, I let myself feel hope. My little girl was finally free from the phantom that had tried to take over her mind. She was learning to stand up to the dark parts that tried to fracture her. She was becoming strong and brave, the Maisie we always knew she could be.